This is the Galaxy S25 Ultra, and it is the best Samsung ever made. It is the best cameras, the best display, and the best specs of any Samsung Galaxy Ultra ever made. But can this make me, a diehard iPhone user, leave Apple's walled garden? I am going to put the S25 Ultra up against the iPhone 16 Pro Max to see which phone works best for me. The S25 has a more blocky and modern appearance compared to the iPhone, but the iPhone's rounded edges make it feel a little softer in the hand. In terms of specs, the iPhone is rocking the A18 Pro chipset, which is the fastest chip in any iPhone ever. The S25 Ultra has the Snapdragon 8 Elite, as well as 16 gigabytes of RAM that's built for Galaxy AI. Both of these phones run smoothly and are the quickest and most powerful phones ever released from either company. Realistically, in terms of design, aesthetics, and specs, both of these phones are evenly matched, so it tends to come down to personal preference on which one of these phones you like better. Moving on to the cameras, this is where these start to differ a little bit. The S25 Ultra has a 50 megapixel telephoto, a 50 megapixel ultra wide, and a 200 megapixel wide angle main camera, whereas the iPhone 16 has a 48 megapixel main and ultra wide camera and a 12 megapixel telephoto lens. The S25 Ultra camera outpaces the iPhone by just a hair in my opinion, but this may be simply because the phone is slightly newer by a few months. Love it or hate it, AI is here and is the main selling point of these phones, and when testing the Galaxy AI features, I came up with some of my thoughts about what is super useful, what isn't, and how it compares to Apple Intelligence. Samsung has this new feature called the Now Brief, which is supposed to show you important information about your day, like appointments, weather, and reminders. I haven't gotten this feature to work as advertised, and when I click into the app on my home screen, all it really shows me is the weather. I have seen it show how many steps that I've taken, but it's not consistent. Personally, after a day or two of using this feature, I stopped clicking into the app because it doesn't show me anything that's actually useful. In the camera application, there is Generative Edit, Sketch to Image, and Portrait Studio. Generative Edit allows you to select aspects of the photo, and it will use generative AI to erase objects and fill in empty space. When testing, I was able to take a photo of my hand covering my face and select my hand, erase it, and have it fill in the empty space. This made me look absolutely crazy and is super uncanny valley because it doesn't really look like me. Sketch to Image allows you to draw an object into any photo that you take, but the AI essentially guesses what you want in the space because there's no prompt box, and I was not able to generate any single thing that I was trying to get it to create. This feature is essentially useless. Portrait Studio is also really wonky. It will take an existing photo that you have in your camera roll and without any prompt box generate a similar image to either a comic, 3D cartoon, watercolor, or sketch version of the picture. When using this feature, the AI would create outputs that kind of look similar to the input but would ignore key details of the photo. If you squint hard enough, the photos look the same, but side by side they can often be completely different people. Gemini is an LLM that's able to understand and communicate in a human-like behavior. It's very similar to ChatGPT. The one thing that Gemini does have over ChatGPT or Siri at this point is it does have the ability to answer questions about apps connected to your Google Workspace account. It does not have write access to any application and is not able to send emails for you. It can only search into apps and populate information from those apps. Compared to Galaxy AI, Apple Intelligence promises to have many similar functions and perhaps more. But why am I not talking about any of those Apple Intelligence features in detail? It's because they're not out yet. Based on this, I have to say that the Samsung Galaxy S Ultra wins over the iPhone 16 by a landslide. Even though the design of these two phones are similar, the camera and the AI features of the S25 Ultra make it clearly a better phone. But this is still not enough to make me leave Apple's walled garden, and this is why. When I first got the S25 Ultra, I intended to change over my SIM card and challenge myself to solely use the S25 for an entire week straight. But in less than a day, I caved and swapped my SIM card back over to my iPhone. I was unable to log into most of the applications that I use on a daily basis because all of my passwords, phrases, and photos are linked to my iCloud account. I could not figure out how to simply transfer my contact list between both devices. I tried to transfer my iPhone information to the S25 and found the iPhone to Samsung transfer experience to be unsuccessful. In comparison, when upgrading to a new iPhone, it's simple to transfer all of your data via backup or direct transfer from one device to the other. Samsung also has yet yet to convince me and many consumers that their ecosystem is worth adopting. Apple's cross-device integration with HomeKit, Siri, Mac, and iPad OS is unmatched. Much like Apple, Samsung does have a phone, a watch, and a tablet, but the way that these devices work together isn't as seamless. Having Gemini and Bixby on the same device causes a lot of friction because Bixby is unable to access Gemini's large language model, and Gemini is not able to access as many settings as Bixby can. In contrast, users can optionally access GPT through Siri's voice commands. This integration has the potential to become even better once Apple Intelligence is fully implemented. Ultimately, the S25 doesn't have that wow factor that would convince me to take the uneasy jump from iOS to Android. The burden for me to completely upend my entire digital footprint needs to be compelling enough for me to swap over every aspect of my digital life to a new system. A fancy AI assistant or a few really nice camera features isn't going to cut it for me to make the switch. As a content creator, I would love to replace my traditional DSLR camera with a built-in phone camera that performs just as well as that camera, if not better. Implementing a super bright 120Hz minimum OLED display into a thin form factor would improve my ability to create content anywhere I go. On the software front, Android needs to have a fully integrated and personalized assistant. Ideally, that assistant would be able to know who I am and manage the logistics of my digital life. For example, if I have to be at work at 10 a.m., I want my phone to automatically set up my alarm in the morning, create a checklist of things that I need to do before I leave, and then tell me the weather for the day and suggest if I need to wear layers. Based on this information, my phone would then communicate with my car to set the appropriate climate, music, and navigation settings before I leave for work. Essentially, the AI would organize my life based on my personal preferences and communicate between modalities to create a seamless experience. I promise the first company that can integrate these systems in this way will have my money for all time.